Hi, so today's tutorial is to show you how to use Rhino Inside Revit and use the built-in categories to add element types within your Revit file, as well as also display within the Rhino interface. So just head into New and Metric Architectural Template, click OK. So if you haven't watched already, please watch the previous video on how to install Rhino inside Revit. It just takes less than 5 minutes. Okay, so make sure that the tab is over here for Rhino Inside. Click on it, and you simply need to click on Start. And what it will do, it will run a copy of Rhino within Revit itself. Okay, the speed in which this will happen depends on the processing power of your computer. This is a laptop that is 6 years old, which explains why it's taking a while to start Rhino up. And you wouldn't face these issues because you don't have these plugins installed. Okay, so after that is done, then wait, you will just need to click on Rhino over here. So this user interface is to toggle between the different kinds of softwares, namely Revit and Rhino, right? So if you don't see your Rhino running up, just click on this black Rhino icon over here. So just some management of screen estate. We will minimize the Revit interface over here. And then we will also have the Rhino interface here. So just gonna zoom out a bit. Okay, I'll just concentrate on doing it in the perspective view. So just double click over here. And the first few steps that you should always do is to check that all the units tally between the two softwares. So click type units. The tolerance here can be 1. And then just click OK. Then in Revit itself, type UN on your screen. Make sure that the length is mm. That's good. Okay, so first things first, in Grasshopper, you can create a new layer and call this the wall curve. Click here to make this the active layer. And you can start off by just drawing a line. So I'm just going to make sure these snaps are all on over here. I will also snap to the grid for now, just to the center. And then I'll turn this off. And I'll type 20,000. Enter, and then left click, and then enter again. Okay, so this is a line that is 20,000 mm that is snapped to the origin point of Rhino itself. Okay, and what I will do next is to draw another line. Make sure that endpoint is activated here for the snaps, and then type 20,000, enter, and left click. Oops. Left click, 20,000, enter, left click, and then enter again. So there's these two walls, two curves drawn on the wall curves layer. Okay, so I will just duplicate this by copying them here, and this one as well here. Okay, so essentially I have 4 curves now. So we will go to Revit and click on Grasshopper over here. And this will fire up Grasshopper within Rhino, which is inside of Revit. Okay, so that's done. And now what you need to do is to double click and type curve and select this, right click, set multiple curves and select all 4 of these lines and then press enter. Okay, minimize the grasshopper interface. Let's just stretch this here. And you will notice that it's the same orientation that we see over here. So this is the y-axis, the green, and the x-axis, the red. And this is oriented in the same way in Revit as well. So northwards and then eastwards. Okay, so you already see curves reflected both in the Rhino interface as well as the Revit interface. So I'm just going to move this over here and scroll this like so. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to use some built-in categories for Revit. So just double click and type built-in categories. So it's this one over here. And this will allow you to search all the built-in categories that are within your Revit interface that is loaded within this particular Revit template file that you have created a new project from. Okay. To search for that, just simply double click on the search bar over here and we can search for walls, enter, and you'll be able to select the wall by left clicking over here. The next thing that we need to do is that you have established the fact that Revit is reading these built-in categories, but we will need to use the element type picker over here. So select this. So this is a little bit different in terms of the user interface. There's no battery button here for this component, but you can still make a connection. So you can left click and drag and connect here. And it will essentially show you all the different kinds of wall types that have been preloaded within here, the Revit interface. Okay, I will just leave this as the default CW wall, 102 mm first. I will show you the difference later on. Okay, now what we need to do is we will use the add wall tool. So double click and type add wall over here, add wall curve. Select this. And what it needs is the type, which is what we're going to put in here. And it needs the curve, which we already have over here. Okay, so immediately once a Revit Rhino Inside Revit component is happy with the inputs that you have given it, it will change from an orange display to a very dark gray display that you see over here. And you will immediately see from Grasshopper, it automatically draws a wall, which is good because in vanilla Grasshopper, for you to draw a wall, you would need to model a curve and extrude it upwards. And what you will see here in the 3D view, within Revit itself, you can, let's just maximize this, and then I can search for my view and click on 3D view, default 3D view, minimize again. And you can see here, these are the new walls that you have created within Revit automatically via the Grasshopper interface. So you can also change the walls on the type of the walls on the fly within Grasshopper itself. So now I'm going to click on that black triangle and now select masonry wall. And if you zoom in, you can see that this has changed to the masonry wall. What I can do also is say, for example, if I want to edit any of these lines, I can click on F10 to show points. I selected both of these two curves here, but I'm going to choose this point and I will shift this like so. And you can see that it is also updating itself within the Revit interface. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to be able to create a floor as well within this particular area. Okay. But to wrap things up for this, now this is at the default level of level 1. Let's check that by looking at the north elevation. Yes, so now you see this, it's at level 0 and it's in accordance to the wall type, which gives it a default of a 6000 unconnected view. We can use a level picker here, which search through the Revit file and finds how many levels there are within the Revit file. And you can click here to select this level 1 and then choose this over here. Okay, so this does the walls on level 1. Okay, you can also toggle between these two, but as of now, we're just going to leave it as the level 1, just to be strict. You can also edit the heights of the walls. So as you can see earlier on, that 6000, maybe I will have a range between 3000 to 4000, which is what you see here in Revit. Click on this, and then I connect this to the height. Now you will see that it also updates both in the Rhino as well as the Grasshopper, as well as the Revit interface. So as I scroll this up, it updates both ways. So having said that, again, you should ideally have a decent enough processing speed in your CPU to manage this properly. Okay, so what we are going to move on next, just now before I was elaborating onto the add walls, was the adding of floors. So I can automatically create a floor by making all of these 4 separate lines or curves into one boundary curve. Okay, so these 4 curves are selected within this particular component, I will use the join tool. Okay, join curves here. Plug the curves over here, and they will come out as one entity now. Let me just hover over here to show you. See, now it becomes one polyline curve. Okay, so we will need this command called the add floor command over here. So click over here. It needs a boundary curve, which we will plug this in right here. And it will automatically create a default Revit floor type. And it will also go to the default level 1 here. So what we can do is we can use whatever that we have done earlier on, this portion here. I'm just going to select the 3 of them, and I will group them with Ctrl G, and then I'll copy and paste. Okay. So now I'll move it below, and I just need to edit this now. So instead of walls, I'm going to search for floors, select this, and then connect this to type. You can see this will update itself as well as in the Rhino interface, and connect this level 1 right here. Okay, so same thing, you can edit this on the fly. I can select with this triangle here. I'll make this thicker. You see this will update over here. When I select this point again, if I want to adjust, it will adjust. Oops, maybe let me just go to 3D view. Okay, and then it will update itself accordingly. Okay, so again, as I've mentioned, this depends on your processing speed. What you see just now is that because the laptop is not very new, so there was an error with regards to that. Okay, but otherwise, this is a very good workflow for you to go in between Rhino and Revit. You will be able to adjust the levels very quickly. You can adjust the types of walls and types of floors, and the floor will be corresponding to the boundary that your walls make. So this allows you to come up with many design variations that you can explore within Rhino itself very quickly, and yet harness the powers of Revit in terms of the documentation that you can see from the 3D view as well as the elevation view. Okay, so that's all for this tutorial.